One last warning from Elon Musk, quote, "The standard for passing the test was to type some words and press send. Yet so many failed. Subject to the discretion of the president, they will be given another chance. Failure to respond a second time will result in termination." Bureaucrats in Washington are getting a second chance. If you haven't told Doge what you did last week, you have until tonight.
It's somewhat voluntary, but it's also, if you don't answer, I guess you get fired. What it really is, do people exist? We have this massive government with millions of people, and nobody knows who's working for the government, who's not. So what they're doing is they're sending out a letter to everybody, and they're saying, what were the things you did last week? I guess they ask for 5. And if people are working, it's easy. I could tell you 5 things I did last week. I could tell you 5 things I did 6 weeks ago, right?
1 million workers sent in their bullet points. That's about half the federal government. So 1 million employees blew off Musk. It's been 72 hours for something that takes 5 minutes.
I could name 5 things, 5 bullets, in about 5 minutes of me coming into the office every day. If you struggle to do that for a week, there's no excuse for that. Now, you can have an extra day to answer it, but you better be able to answer it.
I gave the primetime staff 18 hours for their 5 bullets, and they all met the deadline. Here are some of my staff's accomplishments. Unjammed the printer after Johnny clogged it printing headshots. Transcribed 3 hours of Monica Lewinsky's podcast. Watched 4 hours of Iraqi Sesame Street. Got yelled at on the phone by James Carville. Booked America's heartthrob, Stephen Miller. Called 12 farmers who killed their chickens because Biden told them to. Skipped lunch 5 days in a row producing the monologue. Maha. It's demanding work at prime time, so after careful review, no one's getting doged. Although Johnny's 5 bullets were troubling, and I'll share those in the window. People are taking the bullet points seriously. The commissioner of the FCC said, "I'll show you what I did last week. Watch."
All right, made it to the top with Hassan and his crew. They're swapping out the lighting system up here. Wonderful day with them. America's tower crews get the toughest jobs done. Super grateful for their work.
Yeah. Maybe you didn't climb a power line or ice some illegals, but you've got to send your boss something. If you don't respond, it means you did nothing. Or as Trump says, maybe you don't exist. Here's what one former federal worker says is an average day in the office.
80% of the work in government is done by 20% of the people. Our government is filled with the most incompetent and most lazy people and an occasional hard worker. And those hard workers are severely punished every time they outwork their colleagues. I use the word work very loosely. One employee spent his time remote working, running his own farm. One employee would come into the office, his start time would be 6:30, and he knew nobody would be there. And when I came in at 7:30 and I was the next person to come in, he was snoring at his desk every single morning. Another employee would take the government truck on an almost daily basis so that he could go out to lunch and then go and take a nap in his favorite park under a shady tree in the government truck.
And those people, they showed up at the office. Last week at the Small Business Administration, 80% of the workers were still working from home. Over the weekend, that flipped.
On Friday, it was like there were tumbleweeds blowing through the office. There were still tags left on desk chairs. And it was my first full day at the agency, and I was so excited to be able to meet people. And to not find anyone there was disappointing. To have 80% of the people back yesterday was amazing, to be able to shake hands. And what's happening is Americans are seeing that they have been paying for empty office buildings, for do-nothing bureaucrats. That ends now.
All they had to do was ask the bureaucrats to come back. It was so easy, even Biden could do it. But he didn't. Biden actually fired people who wanted to come into the office, the ones who wouldn't get vaxxed. For 4 years, Joe never tried to save the taxpayers' money. The CEO of JP Morgan says it's common sense.
The government's inefficient, not very competent, and it needs a lot of work. And so you and I, it's not just waste and fraud, it's outcomes. Why are we spending the money on these things? Are we getting what we deserve? You know, what should we change? So I think doing that needs to be done. You have to understand that whenever you go into any big institution or the government, the bureaucracy pushes back on everything. And they will hear every little thing they're going to push back on. So you have to be strong if you're going to do it. It's not just about the deficit. It's about building the right policies, procedures, and the government we deserve.
Doge has already saved you $65 billion. Big Balls just found $35 million for social and behavior change in Uganda. We can't change our behavior in America. Look at the airports. You think you're going to change behavior in Uganda? We're giving the Europeans $70 million for digital transformation. The Europeans are rich because they don't pay for their militaries. They rely on ours. We shouldn't be giving foreign aid to Europe at all. We give them enough. Our software is from the 60s. We're the ones who need a digital transformation. This isn't even real foreign aid. This is just money for grifters. It all winds up in the hands of rent-seeking consultants. Just look at the VA.
You got to see this. I've been giving this report. It says we were taking millions of contracts in dollars in contracts to create things like PowerPoint slide and meeting minutes. Folks, if you don't know how to run PowerPoint slides, learn. It's a tutorial on your computer. Go learn for free. We're not paying millions of dollars for consultants to do this for us.
Last year, the Biden administration gave $7 million to a nonprofit called Ocean Conservancy. Who works with Ocean Conservancy? Consultant Sandra Whitehouse, wife of Democrat Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Senator Whitehouse just happened to vote for the bill that gave his wife the money. And Miss Sheldon Whitehouse has made a lot of money working with Ocean Conservancy, $2.7 million. And this is a nonprofit. Well, she's profited. And so is the senator, since they share a bank account. Sheldon Whitehouse basically took your money and gave it to himself. What does Miss Sheldon Whitehouse's nonprofit even do? They pick up trash on the beach. And they advocate for ocean justice. $7 million for that. A watchdog group's now calling for an ethics investigation into not-so-young Sheldon and his oceanic wife. What do you think Sheldon thinks of Doge?
I would analogize this to a smash and grab robbery. And speed is to your advantage when you're the smash and grab robber. And doing as much destruction as you can quickly is to your advantage when you're the smash and grab robber.
Shelley Shell thinks Musk's stealing from him and his wife because they got caught lining their pockets. It's that backwards. But when your business was smash and grab during the riots, the senator didn't say jack. Everyone defending the pork looks guilty.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Jasmine Crockett, not to be confused with Davy, is angry the train is running out of gravy. To them, finding fraud is like firing shots at Fort Sumter.
You understand the scale of the threat, and you have ideas about how to interrupt what feels like something that we have not experienced since the Civil War in terms of the threat to our republic.
Well, it's certainly the case that we understand the scale of the threat. Our communities have been under siege, as you pointed out, since before the Civil War. I'm a direct descendant of those very communities, so we understand the struggle, the history.
Maybe this is like the Civil War, because Jon Stewart last night got wounded.
It would be embarrassing if it was a small drop in the bucket and that the American people didn't expect that we should negotiate for all their drugs because we've already paid for it with our subsidies. Come on! I'll be going to the hospitals.
And now the Democrats are getting caught staging protests. Last week, the media latched onto a few town hall protests in Republican districts. Run-of-the-mill Republican voters allegedly yelling at congressmen about Doge. But according to the Free Beacon, these weren't run-of-the-mill Republicans. They were Democrat activists organized by Soros-funded groups. They were astroturfed to create fake blowback against big balls. A majority of the country loves them some Doge.
Nearly every one of President Trump's policy initiatives are receiving strong majority support. and I have noted that in every briefing since Inauguration Day. 76% of Americans support the Doge-led efforts of a full-scale investigation to find and eliminate fraud and waste in government expenditures. Again, this is from a Harvard-Harris poll, a very legitimate pollster.
Maybe Democrats should just take some advice from the Ragin' Cajun. With no clear leader to voice our opposition and no control in any branch of government, it's time for Democrats to embark on the most daring political maneuver in the history of our party. Roll over and play dead.
Welcome to Hannity, and tonight you may want to check in on your Democratic friends. They're not really seemingly doing very well. Trump derangement syndrome, radical rage is on the rise, and perhaps no one has it worse than our old friend or old Twitter buddy, Alec Baldwin. Take a look.
My kids live in this building, right? But I want you to know something.
We love the children. We're doing great deals for the children.
So be real careful.
Okay.
If this camera was here, I'd snap your neck in half and break your neck right out. So you know that, don't you?
I mean, you can't make it. My message to Alec Baldwin, that'll be coming up, but I do hope he takes my advice, but the odds are pretty low. It is obvious why many on the left are so triggered. Not only did Trump win a second term in an electoral landslide, taking all 7 swing states and beating Kamala Harris by millions of votes in the popular vote, but now that he's president, well, the winning continues. I'm not sick of it either. Anyway, breaking only hours ago, a deal with Ukraine has been negotiated, giving the U.S. a vested interest in Ukraine's vast supply of rare earth minerals, critical to our country and critical to them. This deal will help Ukraine pay off its war debt, rebuild their country. It will link our two countries together. And after days of panic from the state-run legacy media mob, Trump did what he did best. He made a deal. And now Ukrainian President Zelensky is headed to the White House on Friday to formally sign the agreement. Ending this war is in everyone's best interest. We don't need more people dying. We don't need more buildings blown up. The fact that Donald Trump has been on the political scene for so long and they know so little about him is actually frightening. Let me give you a clue. For those of you in the state-run media mob that I know are watching, here's a clue. And those of you on the left, he is in a perpetual, nonstop state of negotiation, and he puts America first. Just keep those thoughts in your head so you don't bubble and fizz like Alka-Seltzer in water. And back in the Oval Office, President Trump celebrated another momentous day with a brand new hat. Let's take a look.
Look. Yes. See that? Trump was right about everything. It just came in. Somebody said, I said, this was sent in by a fan. I said, I think we should make some of them, right? But we were, pretty much. You want one?
I'll pass.
Are you allowed to take one? Because
not.
he'll consider it. I know him well. He's sort of a stiff.
I said you were right.
Brian, you're not a stiff. He's sort of a stiff guy. You know? He'll take other things, but not a free hat.
What, they're going to get in trouble if they took a hat. As you might have noticed, President Trump was once again surrounded by reporters. This is by far the most transparent, accessible White House in modern American history. In fact, in his first month, Trump answered more than 1,000 questions from the press, from interviews to press conferences to speeches, gaggles, the behind-the-scenes videos. President Trump is seemingly everywhere. His agenda is being felt far and wide. Illegal border crossings are down almost 100%. The FBI and DOJ, which had been weaponized and politicized, is now getting dismantled. Major companies, look at Apple, they're now pledging $500 billion to be spent inside the U.S., building a plant inside the U.S., creating tens of thousands of jobs right here in our country. Doge has already saved, on record, you, the American people, an estimated whopping $65 billion, and that number is expected to go up dramatically. Federal employees are officially back in the office after years of lackluster remote work. 75,000 plus took a buyout offer, and America's great meritocracy is now making a comeback. Even the CEO of J.P. Morgan is now praising Trump and Doge for taking on America's out-of-control bureaucracy. This is all really good news, and President Trump's approval ratings are through the roof on top of it. But if you have a terminal case of Trump derangement syndrome, this is a nightmare for you come to life. And now top Democrats, they just can't help themselves. They lash out morning, noon, and night, including the party's rising star, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Here's her from earlier today.
If you could speak directly to Elon Musk, what would you say?
Off.
That's it.
So enlightening, so productive from the party you love. Now, unfortunately, that's about as measured and as eloquent as, it gets across the Democratic Party. Inside the Capitol, Congressman Hank Johnson, remember, he's the one that famously speculated the island of Guam might capsize and tip over, is now fantasizing about President Trump getting arrested by U.S. Marshals. Take a look.
If a president willfully failed or refused to comply with a court ruling, they could be held in contempt of court theoretically, but it would be up to the U.S. Marshals Service, which is a part of the Justice Department, to be the enforcement arm for the federal courts. Is that correct?
Your hypothetical would have to play itself out.
It would be the U.S. Marshals who fall under the Department of Justice who would have to carry out the contempt order.
I can't help it. Every time I see this guy, I think of Guam is going to tip over. Anyway, it's funnier and gets funnier. And it also gets worse. Another left-wing member of Congress is now asking this age-old question posed by Democrats for centuries. Take a look.
We can't let them deport the millions of families across this country who have been doing the work that keeps our economy going every day. If you look at the food that's on your table, think about who picked it. If you look at your homes, think about who built them. If you look at your vulnerable elders and your kids, think about who's taking care of them.
Well, the more things change, the more they do stay the same. Once again, the Democratic Party seems to value cheap labor above all else. As it turns out, this is not the party of compassion. Instead, this is a hate-filled group of radicalized socialist statists who will say and do anything for status, money, power. It's all about them. In fact, according to the Free Beacon, left-wing groups, you heard all this weekend about all these protests going on in red districts and how they were angry and lashing out at Republican lawmakers. And they're so against the Department of Government Efficiency. And that's all that the mainstream media mob talked about. Poll after poll, however, shows just the opposite. Like we showed you last night, the Harvard-Harris poll, which found 77% of Americans support an effort to eliminate waste, fraud, abuse, and corruption. At the very same time, far-left Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, Rhode Island, now facing scrutiny after reportedly playing a key role in sending millions of taxpayer dollars to his own wife's environmental organization. Oh, looks like the good old boy Swamp is still alive and well. That has to be taken care of, too. Now, Democrats are much more worried about Trump and Musk following the money. Take a look.
You have ideas about how to interrupt what feels like something that we have not experienced since the Civil War in terms of the threat to our republic.
Well, it's certainly the case that we understand the scale of the threat. That can't be doubted. The CBC, which I'm a part of, definitively understands the scale of the threat. Our communities have been under siege, as you pointed out, since before the Civil War.
We need help, okay? We need reinforcement. Yeah. And we need all of you to stand with us. We simply cannot do this alone.
I think what President Trump is doing is essentially putting extortionist pressure on a vulnerable ally that is fighting for its life.
You could pee on my leg, but don't tell me it's rain. And Trump is raining on America.
It's no wonder congressional Democrats are suffering now from the lowest approval rating in history. Now even Jon Stewart, so frustrated with his own party, apparently accidentally hurt himself during a fit of rage. Take a look.
Can it be? The companies we subsidize with billions of dollars are allowing us the privilege to negotiate the price of 10 of their drugs? And 10 is all of them, right? It would be embarrassing if it was a small drop in the bucket and that the American people didn't expect that we should negotiate for all their f***ing drugs because we've already paid for them with our subsidies. Come on! It's fine.
I just want to know, did he need stitches or not? I hope he's okay. Where did Democrats go from here? Is there anyone in the party who's going to actually work with the president for the good of the country?
You know, it's kind of scary that the only way to shame these people would be to accuse them of being normal. Now that the NSA has been exposed, they're scrambling to contain the damage, saying they're looking into the issue and are going to take action. But the NSA isn't the only place where the abnormal is being institutionalized. In Wisconsin, Governor Tony Evers' new budget includes the following changes to language in state law. Mother is now inseminated person. Father is now parent, and mother is parent who gave birth to the child. So we have all these linguistic contortions just so the tiniest portion of society can compel the rest of us to conform to their biological unreality. If you want to enable mental illness, it would be so much easier to just let the kids smoke crack. Governor Evers is a Democrat, of course, which makes me wonder, why does the party of women keep pretending women don't exist? They denigrate motherhood by claiming anyone can do it. So as this progressive hedonistic outreach spreads, one's whims suddenly become superior to biology. The self has been replaced by fleeting desires. But is it no wonder that liberal women are a mess? Pew Research showed that a majority of young white liberal women had been diagnosed with a mental health condition. And only 12% of female libs are satisfied with life. And they think it's unhealthy to know the difference between girls and boys. So what's going on here? What you see in school, government, and even our elite secretive institutions is a sanctifying of the perverse. And when you live a life of perversity, eventually you're going to need people in charge to preserve it on the taxpayer's dime. No wonder they hate Doge. Its goal, of course, is ending radical and wasteful government practices. And if high-level intel officers talking about their plastic vaginas all day isn't a waste of tax money, then I'm Admiral Levine. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He's so rough he wipes with sandpaper. Retired Green Beret Master Sergeant Terry Shepard. She's seen more fights than a cashier at the Waffle House. Host of Outkick the Morning, Charlie Arnold. He's made more people disappear than Hillary Clinton. Magician and illusionist. And he's not a magician, but he can make an audience disappear. Comedian Joe Mackey. So, Terry, my first question is, did you fly to Glendale Cemetery in L.A., dig up Terry Savalas, and take his clothes?
Feeling pretty good about that?
Yes. What is this new look?
First of all, I've been wearing bell bottoms forever. You know this.
Yes.
The boots, yeah. And I dig the 70s cop look. Listen.
Okay.
Here's the thing. Speaking of law enforcement.
Yes.
Now that you're a dad. Mm-hmm. Does this mean that, like, our 2-3 day coke benders are over? because here's what's going to happen. I'm going to call you up, and you're going to do the whole thing, Terry, as a parent. I'm going to roll my eyes. I'm going to just wish we had what we used to have.
Yes.
But congratulations anyway.
Well, we will dial it back to one day.
Fair enough.
So you were a Green Beret. This is all happening inside the NSA on the work systems. Yeah. Basically, it's intercompany email.
Yeah.
What do you got to...
Not good.
No.
There's some dirty birds, aren't they?
Yes.
There's some weirdo. And the thing is, they're just weirdos. And, you know, their whole life is geared towards this kink. The big problem is they're doing it, you sort of mentioned it in your thing before, that is really compromising. You don't think if someone got a hold of that, a foreign government, some criminal organization, they have such leverage over you. Mm-hmm. And so get rid of it. Here's the thing. We've seen all this cool stuff with Doge. Not cool. We all knew we were getting had, right?
Yeah.
But now it's really apparent. We got to start seeing scalps. I don't want people fired. I want people put in jail for this stuff.
Yeah.
And until we do that, we haven't seen that yet.
I just want to tell viewers at home, we don't mean literal scalps.
I kind of do, though.
All right, well, if you kind of do, then we'll just leave it there.
We'll leave it there.
Mackie, I'd hate to see what your little sex chats are like. Oh, man, because the magnetic pull you have over women, you can get them to do anything.
It's true, Greg. With great power comes great responsibility. But honestly, I come to work to avoid my lovers, so... But what's interesting to me about this whole debacle is that it's not top-down, it's bottom-up, pun intended.
My man.
And this is all to reinforce ideological conformity. That's why it comes from HR, because there are a lot of people that won't participate in this garbage. and they're going to be ostracized at work because of it. For instance, like, I think I speak for most people. When they talk about their parents, they don't want to ever think about them having intercourse, let alone be that the way they describe them.
Yes.
For instance, like, no one is going to be like, how's your mom feeling? Is she still in the hospital? Oh, you mean sperm receptacle?
Yeah, it's true. It kind of removes that mother-child relationship and replaces it with cold and clinical terminology.
It's pretty gross. It seemed to be like in the one that the dad kind of made out, though. They're like, oh, he's just parent.
Yes.
Nice.
Chris, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you here.
For sure.
This is pretty crazy. I mean, you're in Vegas. You've seen everything. So these sex chats probably bring back memories.
Well, a couple of things. Apparently, Interlink is the new Tinder.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And with regards to Massachusetts and what's going on there, I stay away from Massachusetts for two reasons. One, they burn witches.
Yes.
And two, for me, the whole thing about like an 11-year-old boy, I have an 11-year-old boy.
Yeah.
If my kid gets into a fight in school, they're going to call me up and say, you got to come in, your son just got into a fight.
Yeah.
But they won't tell me about what's going on with regards to like how he identifies his gender.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
This is a thing that is going on, and like you mentioned, Massachusetts, where the court threw out the parents' appeal because the parents said, like, you didn't tell us that our kid was changing his gender, and they sued, and the school. The court sided with the school.
Which is insane.
So it's like, yeah, if he had cheated on a test, he'd go home. But if he decided to cheat biology in the real world,
right,
it makes no sense at all. That's why I'm going to homeschool.
I think, there you go. Normally, for most people, I think that'd be a good idea. But for you, no.
You don't want me homeschooling anything.
No.
Well, yeah, will you
not,
be the
not for
teacher?
you.
You know what's funny? Joe Mackey indirectly made a good point.
Oh, he did.
Hey. A lot of these people, when they're doing this stuff, don't think about the future. That like they might grow out of this stuff. They might actually decide that they want to be normal again and have normal relationships. But all this stuff is out there. What if you have kids and your kids are going to read this that's out there?
Well, also, if we're changing all of the terminology and we're changing it all the time, we have so much literature out there. There's so many novels, there's so many books, textbooks. I mean, what are they going to do? Just change it and like erase everything and rewrite them? Like, I don't see that happening. It's really quite disgusting what's going on. But before I get into it, I just want to say I'm honored to be holding it down as the sole inseminated person on the show.
Wow. Not really, though. Not really.
Well, we hope. Although I guess it really actually isn't correct to call me an inseminated person at this point in time, unfortunately. Unfortunately. But does that make all of you the inseminators? Is that what we're calling? Okay.
We are the inseminators.
Yes. It's a new movie.
Yes.
It's really disgusting because, the left does like to deem themselves like the feminists, the ultra correct all the time. And the fact that they're trying to erase womanhood is just so disgusting. It's so vile. And the difference in languages, like we've been taken through like this whole process, it has gone from woman to people who menstruate, to birthing people, to chest feeders, to now inseminated people. So I'm curious, what could possibly be next?
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, what would be next? This is where they do a dream sequence. What would be next? We couldn't afford it. You know what, though? Your point is well taken, that, like, they've decided that motherhood is not aspirational. Yeah, oh, you can have this career, you can do whatever you want. Your motherhood is a burden. Unless you're a dude, then it's amazing.
It's magic.
It's magic. We'll make a womb appear. A baby will come out.
I can't even do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, even Chris Angel can't make that happen.
Not that good.
You should do that. That would be a man's gonna have a baby. All right, we must move on.